I think it's now time to move on with our next panel. Anna Hoffman will be moderating this. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we have next three speakers. First of them, Katja Kobolt. So Katja is our colleague from the Institute of Cultural and Memory Studies. She's coming from the field of comparative and cultural studies. She obtained interdisciplinary PhD in literary studies from Munich University, and actually she had been working many years as a curator, art educator, basically with research focused on women's authorship, critical, especially feminist interventions in processes of memorialization, historization, institutionalization. She's with us as a Marie Curie Fellow at our institute, working currently researching artwork in publishing for children in the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia and its characteristic and changing conditions of production and representation. So Katja, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello again. I'm bringing back the discussion to the arts. As Anna said, I'm going to report to you from this current research into artistic practice in publishing for children in the period of socialist Yugoslavia. I would like to start with a quote. Tema rata je aktuelna i sve aktuelnija. Ona je na neki način toliko prisutna da danas ne postoji ni jedna stranica u novinama, a da ne govori o ratu. A kad se već toliko govori o ratu u štampi, onda i tekako i mi koji se bavimo literaturom moramo da se pozabavimo tom temom. These were the words by Dragan Lukic, a poet, writer for children, editor of children's magazine Zmaj, and the long-term editor of children's program on Radio Belgrade. Lukic opened with this constatation, his contribution at the plenum organized by the festival Kurirček. It was the 4th edition of this festival, and it took place in Kragujevac in the year 1966. Since the year 1963, Slovenia-based, Maribor-based festival Kurirček, with its manifolded activities in different parts of Yugoslavia, carried on, I quote, the traditions of the struggle for the freedom of the country and of all universal revolutionary efforts of humanity to create a better world, to bring together younger citizens regardless of the language they speak, thus contributing to strengthening brotherhood and unity among them. Thus, keeping the memory of the people's liberation struggle alive with an objective to strengthen peace was the core aim of Festival Kurirček, which in the year 1966 primarily had to address children and youth who themselves didn't have immediate experience of war anymore. So we are talking about the time when the memory, the immediate, that was based on the immediate experiences, communicative memory basically develops in a new register, which is more dependent on what we call le demeurier cultural. And from today's perspective on children's literature, in which we, even though we know that the post-Yugoslav wars that basically ended up the process of the dissolution of Yugoslavia, that they very much have profound impact on all of the post-Yugoslav region, and that is, as we heard today, within artistic production, contemporary art, also literature, this part I was also researching, had experienced much reflection. Children's literature of today's post-Yugoslav spaces are not reflecting this. So one searches almost in vain for depictions of war in children's literature, whereas before, and this was a subject of my previous research, war was not only the main topic, the main motive of children's literature, but it was also very seminal in terms of establishing or re-establishing of children's literature already during the people liberations struggle. Basically, magazines for children established that continued with their work and then added also other publications, and this was basically the core, not only for the development of different children's literatures, which in some parts of Yugoslavia basically started after the war, Macedonia, Kosovo, also Bosnia and Herzegovina, but there were also, as I have shown in some previous work, there were very important platforms for social and political homogenization, not only of children, and we must know that after the war, almost the half of the population was constituted by children, younger people than 19, but also of cultural scene. Yeah? This was very important impact. Now, I would like now to take these words by Dragan Lukic, with which I opened my presentation seriously, and report to you how he continued his speech. His position was actually, he attached to his colleague, writer, Zagreb-based writer Danko Oblak, who was himself a partisan fighter, and they both basically stood for a position that in the representations of war there was missing something. I quote, Festival Kurirček je u stvari antiratna organizacija, manifestacija, antiratna, a 100% govori o ratu. To je pomalo apsurdno, nelogično, a tako jeste. Bilo bi divno da nema ovoga festivala, ali bilo je rata. Rat je nužnost. Onda je nužnost i ovaj festival i literatura u ratu. Ali mi ne otkrivamo još uvijek čoveka, pravog čoveka koji je gurnut u rat i koji na neki način, bilo da je on napadač ili da je on onaj koji brani zemlju, čovjek kome nije stalo do rata. Da li se to može reći deci? To se ne može reći maloj deci, a može se reći dečacima i djevojčicama, omladini. Ako smo recimo pravili jednostavnu priču za malo decu o ratu, onda pravimo komplikovaniju priču za starije i za omladinu. U našoj literaturi za decu na temu NOB ne postoji treća dimenzija, a ta treća dimenzija je čovjek gurnut u rat, ne postoji nekakvo modernije društveno opravdanje gledanje na čoveka u ratu. Attaching to this, I propose to consider this position from a conceptual point of view of a two-folded concept of precariousness that Judith Butler proposed in her two collections of essays on more or less permanent war. These are, as you see, precarious life and the frames of war. And in this essay, she starts from an ontological and existential perspective to think the conditions in which specific lives cannot be apprehended as injured or lost, as they are not apprehended as living. Butler promotes new bodily ontology through rethinking precariousness, vulnerability, injurability, interdependency, exposure, bodily persistence, desire, work, and the claims of language and social belonging. This was precariousness. Precarity, however, designates that politically induced condition which produces and sharpens the precariousness of life, especially of certain populations, which become differently exposed to injury, violence, and death. Referring to this twofold concept, I basically was looking on the one hand on the way that the post-war establishing of these cultural structures of publishing for children, but I was also thinking through the modes, if these institutional modes and how the children's were addressed, if this added to precariousness of the experience of war and also of post-war reality. I will now give you, how much time do I have still? Okay, thank you. Thus, I will now share with you kind of two, let us say, temporalities of material. The first one is stemming from the immediate post-war time, very much, as you see, kept in social realist, also partly socialist realist traits. Also, other styles were presented. And the experience of war was, I will particularly share with you the material that was meant for younger children, particularly stemming from the Slovene magazine Ciciban. The experience of war was transmitted in various forms, like you see here in this rebus, on three harderers and a bird who sings a sad song because she saw orphans, and the pioneers decide that they are going to take action and grow some food for the orphans. The children came to word, or the experiences of internment and of concentration camps came to within the section Pioneers Write. Then there is also thematization of children of parents who collaborated with fascist and Nazi collaborators, and this basically calling to children to accept the children of collaborators as well as pioneers, because they are not responsible for the acts of their parents. Very much also showing children how the elderly and how the adults are to basically address them in their sorrow. There is this recurring figure of so-called bosanček, of refugee children, and what kind of difficulties they face in their post-war everyday. Usually these were orphans, and how pioneers can support them. Now, like, what are these depictions, basically, how they are addressing children in their experience of war? As you see, there is a lot of addressing ethical agency in relation with peers, honesty, diligence, tenderness, and so forth. Alongside the introduction of the new political and social order, there is what I shared with you, also very much focused on the representation of experiences, also of violence. And according to relational but also hermeneutic trauma model, the social act of addressing, of discursivation, of giving the trauma, so to say, the language, it's basically the first step of incorporating the experiences within the social reality, so to say, and it's also the first step in supporting the recovery from violent experiences, which, as we know, are then traumatic when they annihilate the agency of a subject. Now, in the concluding part, I would like to, now, if this was what I showed you right now, like what Danko Oblak and also Dragan Lukic were talking as two ways, or the way of addressing war between, on the axis between the foe and a friend, and they both address the necessity of this third way of a human who is, so to say, torn and pushed the war to war. I'm here now sharing with you short stories. What you see are edits of these short stories that Kristina Brink, children's author, co-founder of Mladinska knjiga, long-term editor for children's literature at Mladinska knjiga, wrote in 1950. The stories first came out as re-edits, short re-edits for smaller children in Ciciban issues 62-63. They were illustrated by Ančka Gošnik-Godec and Lydia Osterc. The stories are basically autobiographical stories, and a year later, after this Ciciban short edits, they also came out in this booklet with Kurilčkova knjižica at Borec Publisher, which was an edition which was closely related to Festival Kurirček. In the first Ciciban story, there is this motive of how, so basically the stories are kept like good night stories of a mother who tells to his son, who was born in imprisonment. Again, an autobiographical reference. Kristina Brink worked as a courier for Lovro Kuhar, aka Prežihov Voranc, who was a writer and a long communist, a rival basically of Tito. And as Prežihov Voranc, also Kristina Brink was arrested in 1943 and delivered her son Klas in the imprisonment. So there is this basically every short story has this repetitive form of a mother telling to his son in the evening when he was little, and then comes the a story from war. In this story, how he was already at that time even a baby, helping partisans. And even in these small edits, in these short edits, the affective dimension of the stories, it's much more complicated. It's not only about the bravery, it's about fear, also about hope. I'm not going to read you all. As you see, the illustrations add to this affective dimension, whereas here in this longer version, that is basically suitable really for youth or rather young adults. Lydia Oosterts also contributed illustrations, but kept them with floral motifs. I would now, for the conclusion, share with you the last story that kind of concluded this series from Tsitsiban, and after that we can come maybe in discussion also in terms of the precariousness and precarity I was talking about in the beginning. Ko si bil majhen, se je vrnil iz nemškega koncentracijskega taborišča pisatelj Prežihov Voranc. Oblečen v temno-modro delavsko uniformo je obstal med vrati, ko nas je prišel obiskat. Stegnila sem mu roko v pozdrav in ga povabila, naj stopi čez prag. Stopil je k oknu, te dvignil iznad igrač in prislonil k svojemu sivo-belemu obrazu tvoje zardelo lice. Da bi nikoli ne doživel vojne, sinko, ti želim. Umolknil je. In v tem molku me je zgrabil strah in dvom. Kaj, če vse to gorje za manj? Prežih je molčal in njegove modre oči so nepremično zrle proti krimskim hribom. V sobi nad nami pa je živela njegova želja za vse ljudi sveta, da bi nikoli ne doživel vojne. Sinko.
Thank you, Katja, so much. Yeah, it's very also emotional, and also with relation to previous lecture as well. We somehow listen to your answers, but there's probably some accumulated feeling as well related to this, for sure. Yeah. So the floor is open. So any questions, reflections, ideas? Okay, then I'll break the ice. Yeah, you opened so many interesting points. So you compared the temporalities of people's liberation struggle and the last Yugoslav war, for example, and how the ideas of war and peace can also be understood in these different contexts. And what came out, at least for me, reading Butler as well, is also not just precarious, but also livable life. So when life is not livable, and how then survive peace? If the war is the only option, if you know that you wouldn't survive the peace. So whose life then is also livable? Because you're also talking about children. And we also have manipulation in the ideas of children now in Gaza, and who is actually manipulated with the children, and how these ideas of whose life of these most vulnerable beings is actually exposed, and how this is also used in propaganda in different aspects of this. So I maybe ask you to go further into this idea about unbearable or livable life in that sense. And when war is out of necessity, And also, for me, key question, when war is the revolution also. When war is not just war. So you are not fighting enemy, but also you are fighting in order to build some new society or some new ways where peace and war, and we see in all of your stories, they are doing that with the belief that war would never happen and peace would be possible because it would be some different ideas of society, which is on a different grounds, built of a different grounds. So to be even more now, fervor, bringing some fervor, not just this sad emotion.
Yeah, a very packed question. A lot of strengths to kind of pick up and...
But you feel that you can
okay,
answer.
I will maybe, I hope I will be systematic enough. Now, to bring basically back this, this question, as I said in the beginning, and as already Dragan Lukic also basically opened his speech, even though the war is omnipresent. You know, I was recently with my children at the coast. My 9-year-old boy looks down to the sea, beautiful Amalfi, and we spot a boat and he asks, is this a refugee boat? War is here, yeah, but how it's addressed, and this is particularly, yeah, I think also to point out that basically from what has taken place in the last 40 years, Martin will this know much better than myself, it's a complete change of the media landscape, yeah? Whereas before, so here we are dealing with literature that was very important within the modernization process after the Second World War, not only in socialism, also in other welfare states and so forth, but this was an orchestrated process. Nowadays, the way children and also we basically consume media, this editorial basically function, yeah, which would bring what, for example, Benedict Anderson was claiming, this temporal, spatial homogenization of communities, yeah, even like imagined communities, yeah. This is nowadays missing. It's on demand, yeah. So basically, we don't have orchestrated, even though we have, as we said to date, quite unified depictions. Now, my question, which I haven't answered yet. Maybe some of you remember the project by Maja Bajević, where she was in Hammam, I think it was 2004, basically washing the cloths with embroideries. Let's leave as there will be 100 years of peace, but prepare as the war will be tomorrow, and so forth, yeah? So I'm also, now when I see this, this production, I'm also thinking of, you know, like, how the things ended up for us, yeah? The war was so omnipresent, and, you know, when I basically go through this children's literature, one could, if one would like to, yeah? Tell a very, very conservative story about it. The inevitability of the bloody ending of, and so forth, yeah? I mean, it can be curated in a way to go there. Nevertheless, yeah? I mean, the question stays, what are the pictures of war that are the pictures for peace? Yeah, this is a question that Zdenka has already raised. Yeah, I would go further into the question of revolutionary, but there are, please, Nina and also Jelena.
Yes.
I'll just grab some water.
Well, my question is not that well articulated and developed as Anna's. I'm reading that maybe more as a mother of two small children, and these are the stories that I would never read to my children, even though they are also afraid of the war, of the Ukraine and Russian war. They hear a lot about. So I'm thinking also here, these presentations, for whom they were. I mean, did you think about the reception of the kids reading that stuff when they were young? I remember when I was young, in the 80s, I had these war stories up to here. And for me, they were too realistic. And were representations here also that realistic? Because here, Christina Brink is like, it's more therapeutic maybe also for her to share her story. I mean, for whom were these stories? For the adults, for the children? And where also you can raise up kids against the war and for other kind of human good and values with stories with the animals being present. But these are very realistic portraits of the horrible part of the war.
Are we going together, the questions, or yeah?
My question is a bit related. In example, if you compare this situation, in example, with the contemporary situation where the cultures or politics of like safety, right to individual rights of children and so on are so present. How do you see difference, and how do you see this past relating to today, to today's way of dealing with the subjectivity of a child? Because in the picture before, the child, of course, is not aware of the doings of the mother, and the doings of the mother are quite transgressive, to tell it in contemporary terms. Okay.
I think that kind of a common question to what you both raise is, whose war is this? Basically, and here I would like to, and I will come into the specificities of both of your questions, and here I would like to go or to turn to the words of Danko Oblak, who at the same plenum of Kurirček before Lukic raised very similar thesis and said, ideal mnogih naših knjiga za djecu je uprošćen lik kurira. U revoluciji smo imali mnogo kurira, volimo ih i poštujemo, a djeca treba da im se dive. Ali mi ipak znamo da rat nisu vodili kuriri. Vodili su ga ozbiljni borci, seljanke, majke stočarke, bez kojih bi naše brigade poumirale od gladi. Vodili su ga heroji, komandanti i politički mislioci, a njih tako reći nema u dječjim knjigama. And now to come back to the question of for who this stories was, and the majority, of course, as also it was discussed in professional circles. You know, it was the so to say focalization of a child. Yeah, seeing the war from a alleged perspective of a child. It was not that often that a perspective like here, you know, and this is why Lukic also was kind of, you know, pushing, like, let's have this other perspective of, you know, of the necessity or, being pushed, because this is also, it's not clear, neither ontological nor existential category of, when the war is needed and those. The stories were, especially as in re-edits in Ciciban, directed to small children, and here it was, as I said, basically adult. So this is the base that then Christina Brink made, but nevertheless, I must say that she, particularly in combination with the illustrations, succeeded to bring over the complexity of the depiction, of war. And now, have I answered, like, just posredno to your question? Or would you like me to go deeper, then step back into a dialogue? Okay, bother me later.
Thank you, Katja, again so much for this presentation.
Welcome.